this is where all the magic happens. This is batch operator here, Dan the man. So he gets basically dispatch when a truck arrives in the yard. Dispatch will send all the mix information and job information over to Dan here, and this is where it actually gets all weighed up and measured and then loaded into the truck. So you'll notice this truck that's directly in front of us is a little dusty. Well, that's because that's the dry side, dry batch of the yard. So there's actually dust collectors that collect a lot of the dust, and then, but it's just a dustier process because all those ingredients are going in there raw without being mixed. So you got that cement, stone, sand kind of going in dry, and then the water gets mixed with it.
The water goes in at the end.
Yeah.
How do you decide if a customer gets dry batch, concrete, or central mix?
So there's a few different things. It's very mix dependent. The higher cement content and the more cement in the mix, the more tricky a dry batch mix gets. And then for stuff that's state or city spec, lots of times it's specified that it has to come out of a central mix because it's more consistent and you can monitor the quality better. So there's just kind of a lot of things that go into it. Typically, a lot of stuff that's a good candidate for like a dry batch mix is stuff that's, you know, for footings or low strength material. Not that it's makes any difference, but it's just stuff that you're not as concerned about the strength and quality of the concrete. Like I said, it really doesn't, it's not detrimental to use dry batch, it's just it's the consistency is not as good as using the central mix.
So this camera is showing what's going in this truck?
Right, so that's right now dumping out of the central mix, so you can see the edge of the drum with the concrete dumping out, and it's coming down the boot into the truck. Back in the day, people used to call concrete mud, send us a load of mud, you know, and now it's getting to the point, like I was mentioning before, with all the different bins and different dry materials, that it's a very complicated, highly technical process, and people don't realize, but we have over 3,000 different mix designs in our catalog. So, you know, like I said back in the day, oh, send a load of concrete, like whatever. Now it's, you know, it's not just send a load of concrete, it's what do you need it for, what are you using it for, what type of environmental climate is it going to be in, it's going to be indoors, outdoors, and we have...
So a contractor can call and tell you, I need a foundation mix for this or that.
Right, right. Does it need to be pumped? Is it just getting poured off the chute? There's all different kinds of variables that go into consideration of what particular mix we want. And so it's another misconception that a lot of people have. So besides obviously the plastic tests, they're doing compressive strength tests. So you'll see all the cylinders on the rack back here.
Now you're making little cylinders.
Yep. We're able to do fine with the 4x8 cylinders for our own internal monitoring, stuff like that. If we do work for like the city or the state, sometimes they require that we use the full 6x12 cylinders, so we'll use those if we need to, but kind of just depends. And then the other stuff that they do is that they're doing aggregate testing almost daily to make sure that the aggregate raw materials are within spec, and also doing moisture content tests. Obviously the piles are not covered or anything like that, so just about every morning when they come in, especially if there's a rain the night before or something like that, they'll get that moisture content on there. They basically just take a sample, weigh it, cook it in the oven until the moisture's been cooked off, and then they'll weigh it again and see how much was captured in there, and then again they'll adjust the water accordingly.
Are there automatic moisture measuring?
There are. There's ones for sand that work fairly well. Measuring coarse aggregate moisture with automatic type things is not really that accurate at times, so it's kind of hard to say. And also, it's kind of very important that whoever's doing the testing is getting representative samples. So like sometimes even with the automatic probe, some of them that are in the plant and stuff, well, that material may have sat in the plant overnight, and until some new stuff starts getting cycling through, like things are changed. So.
and the industry as a whole? If you can give me just a few examples.
So as far as new technology goes, we're working on a lot of different things. Working on doing a lot of automation, taking some of the variables out, just so that we can keep a tighter control on the materials and what's going into the mix. We're also continuing to test out other technologies as far as being able to monitor the quality of the concrete while it's in transit or in the truck. And we're using different systems to be able to monitor the temperature and actually be able to make adjustments to the load while it's in transit so it arrives on site in the proper spec. So, and then that's kind of more on the hardware side. On the software technology side, we're doing a lot working with mobile apps and doing some web infrastructure projects that will allow contractors to monitor their pours while they're on site so they can plan accordingly, see when the next trucks are arriving, see what the progress is, those sorts of things.
So you see a lot of people walking around with like iPads and stuff. Do you see that around the plant a lot?
It's starting to become more and more prevalent that people are starting to use smartphones and tablets on job sites. So we're trying to be ahead of the curve and make sure we're paying attention to the demands of the customers and so that they can monitor their job sites in a smarter way than having to pick up the phone call. If we can reduce the call traffic to our offices and in the same breath get them the answers and solutions that they need, then it's a win-win for everybody. So.
Excellent. I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the most challenging component of being the Midwest supplier of concrete and materials?
I think for us, and it's probably true for any ready-mix supplier, is that things are always changing and it's never the same story. Each morning you wake up and you really don't know what you're going to be in for every day. It's a very dynamic kind of business to be in, and you're dealing with weather and traffic and a lot of variables that are out of your control. So it's kind of exciting. If you like the same even keel, kind of do the same thing every day, then I always tell people ready-mix is not for you. So.
Awesome. I wanted to touch base on the economy. How has that affected the business, and what have you guys done to kind of overcome any obstacles involved in that?
The recent recession has been extremely challenging as a business. It's been hard for everybody. We've had to make a lot of tough decisions over the past years, and especially being a family business, a lot of those decisions are even more difficult at times. But the one thing that it does help is it really helps you strip down to the core of what your business is and really kind of get rid of some of those things that maybe weren't as beneficial. So I think through the recession we've come out a lot stronger, a lot more efficient, and I think we're starting to see things grow. It's at a pretty slow pace and we're still very far away from we were before the recession, but I think the steady pace at which things are growing, it makes the growth very real, and we're excited. We think things are going to continue to progress, and we think the next few years are really going to be good for the industry and good for the economy as a whole.
Awesome. I have two other questions. My one question is, what big projects are you guys currently working on right now that you could talk about?
One of the biggest projects that we're working on in the area is actually some infrastructure work with I-90.
Okay.
There's a couple big sections of that we're doing, and so anytime there's a big highway project going on, there's a lot of activity. Another one out in the suburbs is LaGrange Road reconstruction, so there's a lot of infrastructure work, and we're also seeing a lot of institutional work and those sorts of things as well too. Residential was doing very well at the beginning of this year, and it's kind of dipped a little bit since then, but it's still showing signs of promise for the coming year. So.
Okay. And then my last question is, where do you see the future of Ozinga going? I know that's a really big question, but if you can narrow it down, what do you think? What are your plans for the future as far as the plan goes?
I think our biggest thing is it kind of goes back to the mission of why we do what we do, and our focus is always to first and foremost honor and glorify God. That's very important to us, but also to serve our community, our coworkers, the customers. So we're always kind of looking, how can we do things better? How can we be more efficient? How can we provide the best service for our customers? And that's kind of what the key is for us moving forward, is making sure that we're honoring our commitment that we've made. And as things continue to grow, things get more spread out. So it's been my personal goal to make sure that Ozinga remains dedicated to relationships that we have, and kind of keeping that family aspect and things, and really being local. So
When you talk about, and I just want to touch on this real quick, when you talk about working with the community, can you go into specifics as far as you're saying like serving as a duty, basically?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for us, so we're operating a family business. So it's myself. I have 5 brothers and a cousin.
Okay.
And we're part of the leadership team for the 4th generation. And for us, each one of us is very aligned in the fact that none of this that's around us is our own. So we're very, we try to remain very focused on that and make sure that we're giving back to the communities that we're operating in. We're constantly, anytime there's anything going on, whether it's with our coworkers or even in the community, we're making sure that we're there to support it. And it's just, we make sure that we give a certain percentage of our revenues back to charitable foundations and stuff like that. So it's just very important to us. It's not just important to us, it's something that we kind of have to do. So it's not an option for us. It's something that we need to do. So yeah.
All right, I think those are all the questions that I have. Thank you so much for the whole tour and everything. It was great.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.